When I speak of L.M.Montgomery, I have to refer to my family, particularly my mother and her parents. My mother was born in Green Gables. She was the oldest daughter of Ernest and Myrtle Webb. My grandmother and grandfather Webb lived in Green Gables because they were helping my grandmother, Myrtle Webb's great aunt and uncle, who were Margaret and David McNeil. They were elderly, and they came to stay with them and help run the farm. My mother was born there, as were her siblings, and they lived very close to L.M.Montgomery. You just had to run out the front door and down across the brook and up through the haunted woods, and you were there, just across from where L.M.Montgomery was raised. Aunt Maud did express her affection for my mother in her journals. I call her Aunt Maud because my mother always referred to her as Aunt Maud. And so I naturally speak of her as Aunt Maud as well. She came to visit L.M.Montgomery, my mother, when she was 20. Mother returned several times to Norval to visit Aunt Maud and stay with her. During her very first visit, she would have met my father, Murray Laird, and of course he lived just up the hill, the East Hill from Norval. And I think Aunt Maud sort of worked on although she promised she wouldn't, she was maybe thinking of marriage in her mind between the two of them. They eventually did marry in 1934. They were married in the manse. The wedding was performed by Mr. MacDonald. It was a very quiet wedding because my father's father had just passed away just a few weeks prior. So it was a very quiet wedding. But Aunt Maud, in spite of that, she made a little lunch to have after the wedding, and they went on a honeymoon up to Muskoka, I think. My Aunt Anita, who was a great cook, was given Aunt Maud's recipe book. Aunt Anita worked for a while for Aunt Maud after she moved into Toronto at Riverside Drive. She came up at Aunt Maud's request to help her. The cookbook was written into a ledger. It was certainly not something that she would have maybe shown to anyone. The recipes are kept in categories. It's not indexed. Some of the writing is a little messy, so obviously she was writing very quickly. My mother did comment that she was amazed at how quickly Aunt Maud could write. Her hand just flew across the page. Some of the recipes in the cookbook, a pen has been drawn through the recipes. We think perhaps she rewrote those X'd out recipes into another cookbook. We can't be sure of that, but we suspect that she prepared something else. And then when Aunt Anita was working for her, maybe she did it in those last years. And maybe she handed Aunt Anita her old ledger book with the old recipes. Kelly and I thought up chapters rather than having just a recipe book as a recipe book. We thought up chapters that would coincide and fit into a theme. For instance, the workaday world of a minister's wife, and we chose recipes that would suit that thing, or companies coming for dinner. And so Kelly wrote in a lot of history about the Webb family and Green Gables. So it was fun. It was fun to do that together, particularly with Kelly. In the front of the cookbook that we have, there's a quote. "If I had not been a poor devil of an author, I think I would have made an excellent cook."